Hello, hello. All phlegmy again. That's great. Great way to start. Anyway, also, yeah. Wow. Let's just get into it. So I'm back again. I don't know what this problem is. Need to drink more water. And yeah, we're gonna do music today. We're gonna do the music thing here on Thursday, and it's gonna be like this now. And I gotta also make sure I turned off the audio on my desktop last time, and I do want to make sure that I get the audio levels adjusted properly. But yeah, it's gonna be kind of a short week this week, mainly because we've got 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 11 albums, and actually some of them are EPs. So it's a situation where, like I said in the description, I tried to just focus on the May releases this week. And because last weekend was a 4-day weekend and the start of the May holiday season, I'll just make sure my headphones are on there. And also because Friday's typically when albums are released here in Russia. And tomorrow is like the 9th of May. It's the big one. Basically, no one is releasing any albums except maybe Husky, but we'll have to wait to see about that. So the first 2 weeks of May are kind of dead. I got through 11 albums this week. I have probably that many more. We'll see how many of them are actually like worth getting through. So who knows? Maybe next week we'll be talking a little bit more about April albums. But this week we've got a mix. I'm going to be upfront right now. Of the 11 albums, 11 are in the rock and metal category, and most of them are metally. But it's not all like super extreme. There's actually some, I would say, kind of some hidden gems. Not hidden gems, obviously. I'm showing them to you, so they won't be hidden anymore. But there are some ones which are there are some choices here which I think are, even if they are a bit heavier, they're going to be able to, I don't know, like be open and available for a wider audience. So we're going to start out with pop and indie, then we'll go into rock and metal, and we're actually going to end with electronic music because that's just how it is. So you might already be able to guess the top pick of the week just based on that information. That said, let me get us over to that. Okay, so we should be there. So with pop and indie, there's 2 albums this week, and I'm not going to say one of them is better than the other. They're both very good in their own regard, and they're both albums which I would call growers. They're ones that are going to take, that you come back from multiple listens and you'll, like, they should grow on you a little bit, but they're both also very easy to get into right away. So the first one we have is AVRAMOVA and Всё со мной I almost said it wrong. Всё со мной так. And it's just art pop. This is art pop. It's all about accepting yourself. The cover art, which is not getting any larger. That's kind of, okay. I'm sure it will, maybe. Okay, there. Yeah, okay, sure. After, with a bit of a delay. It's got like this kind of very, I don't know, not maximalist, but there's something very light and fun about the album art. And the album itself is kind of, as far as I understood, about accepting yourself, not really caring so much about what others think, which evidently stands in contrast to Avramova's last album, which was a bit more reserved and turned inwards. This is more of a celebration of life, not denying yourself. There's something vaguely hedonistic to it all at its core, and that is reflected in the music, right? It's art pop in the sense that it's very maximalist in its usage of instruments and arrangements. Certain tracks, for example, Zima, which I will play for you, reminded me a little bit of Montreal and that hyperactive avant-garde indie pop of the late 2000s, early 2010s. There's a lot of other sounds here, though, so it's not just like an of Montreal hyper avant-garde pop type sound. There's even some more experimental stuff, but let's just get into it so you'll get the idea. Oh, also, yeah, the internet should be fine. Okay, so in Moscow, like, because of the parade, the internet should be working fine, but we'll see. Hopefully it... So we got the woodwinds and... Light start, but you jumped into it. There's a saxophone in the background. Oh. So there's a back and forth. I mean, if we jump into Молчанье story is probably one of the standout tracks in a lot of ways. Wow, the internet is really not wanting to do anything this evening, it sounds like, or it feels like. Well, we'll there it is. There'll be some delays, so I guess maybe it's good that there aren't so many albums. Live instrumentation, the kind of electronic elements in there, layered vocals. Switches up just. Down here. So, right, you kind of get the idea. This is the one that I had in my notes as a bit more of the of Montreal style. Wow, I really hope it's not going to be like this all stream, but perhaps it will be. Anyway.
Остались умывать зачем-то, но сердце не виска. You are not серебрится, что-то это. Луч рассвета или адский огонек. Сын закованное небо, гудит от боли иностранного. Тяжелый этот гул небесный заглушает крик немой. Вот четверка почтовая, колокольчики тин-тин-тин.
This part a bit more. And then this one's a bit more experimental. Obviously, it's going to take a second to load, so I'll just talk a bit about it. In my notes, I don't have exactly why it's experimental. I just made a note experimental. So, as far as the Tolya's Verov album, no, I didn't have a chance to listen to it yet. So, it's on my list. But the avant-garde thing is definitely here, so I don't want to like. But yeah, instruments, arrangement, just the back and forth on the tracks, right? There's very pop maximalism at work here. Nebulous thing going on. So like I said, this is an album I've listened to a few times now, and it's one of those where on first listen, there were a few times where I kind of drifted from, like, for sure, Отчаянные истории. A few of these other ones. There's also a track with Dictaphone on there, who, had one of the really better albums a few weeks ago. A few of these tracks, like, will immediately kind of hook you, but then some of these other ones, when you come back to them with repeated listens, it's an album that really opens itself up more each time you come back to it. So you get more facets of it. So yeah, that's Всё со мной так, and AVRAMOVA is the artist there. All right, and then the other pop indie album, it's really more of a pop, it's XRUSTALIC and Bed Scenes. This is, if you were to just look at the, okay, so it's going to be slow, so you'll see the large picture of it here. But if you were to look and maybe guess from, like, maybe the imagery here and stuff like that, you'd be like, oh, it's like kind of maybe probably cold electronic pop music. Probably got haunting female vocals, and you know what, you would be absolutely correct in that guess up to a point. It's definitely like that for the majority of the album, and it's well done at that, so there's no issues there. But this duo from Taliati have got a few tricks up their sleeve. This is their second album, and I honestly have not heard the first one, so I can't tell you if it's similar, but they do a lot of bait and switches, where there are some tracks that start out very, very sparse and fragile, like almost acoustic piano, like a broken soul type ballad, and then it will end with this like reverb drenched shoegaze style outro on the end of the track. There's a lot of shoegaze in the mix here, which I was not expecting at first, but it kind of works. The album spends the majority of its time bouncing back and forth between that cold electronic sound and then the cold reverb shoegazy sound. So, which works, right? It's an interesting mix, and I can see why they put it together. So let's just jump into a few of the tracks here, and you'll get an idea of a little bit of what I'm talking about. Anyway, wow. Okay, yeah, so there is a problem with... Oh, that... Okay. I guess they wanted us to play the third track, Intoxication, here.
Это место необитаемо, эти стены меня растворяют, но я точно знаю одно: есть что-то несгораемое под тонким пальто, что меня очень отравляет. Что-то тебе очень нравится, что-то сейчас расплавится, тронь его кончиком пальца.
We know this sound, right? Not a new sound by any means, but... But this is one that's probably a little bit more just that like colder electronic pop, right? And now we're gonna try to get to one with the what do you call it? The shoegaze aspect in there. We're gonna have another one of these situations where it does not. Okay, yeah.
Бычок облепили внутренние органы пачками, курю сигареты в голоде. Уже не плачу, будто душа не больше, чем прикол. Ни то, ни мяч, а мы с тобой похожи утонем. Выбери, что хочешь на ужин, мой желчный.
It's a bit more of that stripped down sound that I was talking about too. Not quite exactly the track I had in mind, but... Is this the shoegaze one though? is. All right, whatever. Probably should have put that actually in my notes. We'll find it. As I'm searching for it, we'll bounce around a little bit. I know towards the end it does pick up a bit more with the shoegaze aspect. Not that it's like super important, but I mentioned it and I would like to find it now. So, yeah, the internet thing is really nuts right now. But again, very sparse. There's the shoegaze. So it starts out like really sparse, just basically solo female vocals, and then kind of transition to this. So it's not just like that cold electronic pop that we're not inundated with, but is something of an industry standard, it feels like, at this point in time. Okay, that's not the only surprise, though. Can you hear those vocals in the background? Those, like, shrieks. The first time listening to this, I didn't really notice that. And I honestly was listening to it in headphones and just kind of not looking at the track. I was just listening to it. And that allowed the album to completely pull the rug out from me on the second to last track. So we're going to open with the continuation of the haunted electronics that we see. Enter the Void actually almost feels a bit like one of those deconstructed tracks from the end of Nine Inch Nails is the Downward Spiral, where like it just is weird kind of vaguely industrial noises, but it feels like someone pulling things apart. Enter the Void kind of has that, and it has a very Nine Inch Nails title, let's be real. But Black Mirror, just it doesn't quite follow it exactly, but it continues with those weird echoey haunted vocals, and then like I said, it pulls the rug out completely from underneath you. Just get ready for it. Yeah, it's black metal. I honestly, when I was listening to this, I honestly thought the album ended. Like that last little bit had been an outro, and that this was just the next song off the next album in my playlist. Because everything up until this point does not really lead you to expect it. Like I said, on The Worst Person in the World, there are some of those vocals in the background, but yeah. Now, good to see about the vocal mix too. It goes back to this kind of electronic cold vocal thing again too. It's just wild. You have the blast beats, you have the intense strumming that comes back at the end. In the end, you even get like the sort of pig vocals buried down in the mix. It's down there. And I have to say, even though this stands out very awkwardly in the album, I love the concept, right? Like this cold electronic pop type sound. and then somehow trying to merge that together with black metal. I don't want to say that it works perfectly on this track, but the fact that it has been attempted and the fact that it is close, like there's some tooling that needs to be done, right? Like figure it out a little bit, maybe make the vocals a little bit more energetic or something. But yeah, anyway, I obviously that's not the whole album. Far from it. The album is that sort of cold electronic, but then also a bit of that shoegazy vibe in there, which is already an interesting mix. So I think that's already a good start. And there are a lot of like nice, good tracks on this album, right? Just listening through it, just kind of being like, yeah, this is a nice one. This is a nice one. I actually don't heart all of them too. I usually try to do the ones that I would specifically like to highlight. And then obviously you can see that gets a little bit out of hand. But I do, if XRUSTALIC doesn't do it in the future, it would be interesting to see another group do it. If it hasn't already been done, it probably has already been done. But yeah, still, that is an outlier on the album. There are 15 other tracks. If you're not into black metal or like that's the worst thing in the world for you, there are 15 other tracks on this album which have that more light pop ethereal sound with just a healthy dose of shoegaze reverb thrown in there to keep things a little bit fresh. So yeah, the album is Bed Scenes by XRUSTALIC, and that's it for pop/indie music this week. And from there, we are going to move into the territory of actual metal, and we are going to get into the pig and the grunting and all of that stuff. So. I'm just going to cut right to the chase. This is probably the most extreme thing this week. Yeah, I would say this is the most extreme. There are some others up there, but we're starting out with the Bloodspiller EP by Cavemode. It's got a bit of a Jason Voorhees homage, I guess, if you will, on the cover. Just slamming brutal death metal. Musicians... like how they play, the musicianship is extremely tight, extremely heavy and tight. The vocals sound at times like a teenage boy imitating a burp, and at other times like a wet fart, but that is like brutal death metal vocals. So, it's well done for them. This is definitely not going to be for most people, but if you like this style, it's a pretty good EP to check out, and it's like 5 tracks, like less than 10 minutes long, right? So I'm just going to play a little bit of this because I know the vast majority of people, this is not for them. Yeah. See, he's got like the obligatory. That's the teenage boy burping sound. But if you were to remove the vocals and just go with the instruments here, it's heavy. Slamming, brutal death metal. I should say a teenage boy burping into an aluminum can. So yeah, you get the idea. It's 5 tracks like that. If you're into that type of thing, I would say check it out. The Bloodspiller EP by Cavemode. If you're not into that thing, then we'll just move along because that's about all there is to say to there. Up next, we have an album that should fit in. It is under indie. I have it under the rock thing because at first it's post-punk at first glance, but I'm going to let the band describe their sound. Get ready for this. I'll put the cover up here when it comes up. In the shadows of oral labyrinths where shoegaze gently weaves together with krautrock and grungecore sounds like the call of abandoned cities, in the music there is a striving to blur the boundaries of genre, mixing ballad sounds with rough experiments. It just kind of goes on and on like that for a while. There were like a few other connecting ideas in there too I cut out. Like, It's a bit in terms of the description onastic, but the music's quite nice. It is certainly a mix of the genres that they laid out there. It's basically shoegaze with a bit less feedback and a bit more post-punk. I saw somebody compare it to the Verve or Stone's Roses, which is a pretty good place. I suppose I probably could put this in with the indie sort of category, but we'll give it a shot. Give it a bit of a listen here. A bit of a refresher after Cavemode just then. So well, we'll try to give it a listen. We got the error thing happening all the time. I don't know what that's all about. It's a nice sound, especially after Cavemode for most people, I think. Jump a little bit further into the track. It never really gets too aggressive. Just kind of keeps moving along. We even have a solo. I can't think of the last time we had a solo in these songs. I'm sure we have. And move on to the next one here. If we're allowed to. Yeah, I probably should have put this in the pop and indie category, but could maybe even see a little bit of like maybe a Dinosaur Jr. here. A little less feedback, but it goes on and on, right? It's an album that's hard to really. There are certain genres of music that are very hard to show snippets from, right? Because the tracks are less about maybe a specific idea or a rhythm or a riff or something like that, and they're more about a vibe. And I think this is one of those examples where it's very laid back and mellow, but it's got some drive to it as well. It's also evidently like a local super group in St. Petersburg. I don't know. I don't know who the artists are, so. Yeah, it is. It's a familiar sound. It's like. It's like a blanket. Sometimes you just want something to like wrap yourself up in, and this is an album for that too. It's a little bit like a wool blanket, I suppose. It's a little bit prickly at times, but for the most part, it's just comfortable. So, and it's well done. And I do like the fact that there's a nice little mix of everything. You can sometimes pick out sometimes you can notice a grunge sound. Sometimes you can notice like the bass line. You're like, oh yeah, that's post-punk. And then other times it's just this kind of floating, shoegazy, reverb-drenched world that you're living in. So yeah, that is Мотив with their self-titled LP. I think that's the only thing they've really got out right now. But okay, so that was nice. We had a nice little breather there. After that, we are going to move back into heavier territory now. I think maybe this like weird pop-up has been constant. So this is the EP Rегессия, and the group is Молчанье. Yeah. I'm not gonna get too deep into this. It's just emo core out of St. Petersburg. It's a tight collection of melodic hardcore with some emo in the lyrics. It's pretty understandable when we get into it. Maybe the little yellow pop-up was not the problem. That's what it seems like. But Russia does have a lot of good metal going on. So, again, not reinventing the wheel here, but it still goes hard, right? That's what you want sometimes. And again, it's not like it's a bit of that emo edge to the hardcore. So, God, I really wish these would load faster. It's getting a little bit annoying, but. So it's 4 tracks. Technically it's 3 because the intro is just like its own short little thing, but. All right, so you get the idea. I just have to play the intro though off the last track because, it kind of cracks me up every time. Answers the phone. Pretty soon.
Hello.
I don't every time I heard that when I was listening to this EP, just the phone ringing and then the female voice finally answers it and this dude just starts screaming into it. And to be fair, I can't make out the lyrics because they are kind of, it's supposed to sound like it comes through a telephone. But you can just imagine that, right? Some dude just it's just, I don't know. It's oddly hilarious to me. So the song's pretty good too, but I love it for the intro. It feels almost like a joke. But I'm sure there's an idea behind it. So anyway, moving along. Oh yeah, so that is the Регессия EP from Молчанье. Next up, we have главное, чтобы было скучно, and the group is Sonya. This is, well, honestly, it's been a few weeks since we've had sort of, I've not been making the images big. I'll do a better job with that now. I guess I didn't do it with the last one, but it's been a few weeks since we've had maybe an album that I can remember from the what I would call punk-arama territory. But this album here combines the two opposite ends of that punkorama sound. There's the pop punk with the more aggressive, right? The true punk. There's a lot of Sum 41 and Millencolin in there, the punk part sound. But there's a lot of hedonism and depression and confused emotion here that honestly would be emo if it wasn't so pissed off. And it sounds, in that sense, at times closer to like Rancid, maybe NoFX, if you will. Although NoFX is usually kind of having a pretty good time too. I saw a lot of people just be like, yeah, it's like a party album and everybody's, but it's honestly, it's kind of, a lot of the lyrics are about just like getting so drunk that you forget. And I don't think it's in the like, it's not an Andrew WK party till you puke sort of way. It's a, like, I am depressed and I hate stuff, so I'm just drinking. But like, it looks like the Monkees are having a good time, so I can get why that might be that. Close the yellow thing. It doesn't make a difference, but it's starting to become a, what's the word? A superstition. That's it. Not a very effective one, but excellent. A little bit of the pop punk sound, right? Jumping around, got your skateboards. Sum 41, 100%. I do like the lyrics, though. So, there's a lot of that energy throughout the album, but I think the second track is a little bit like that, too. Ay. I'm gonna blame the Moscow government because they're like blocking all sorts of signals with the parade coming up. So that's. This is a bit more of the depressive stuff.
Если б я нашел джина, загадал бы желание не бояться ничего, без страха двигаться дальше. Загадал бы о себе не сойти с ума старый, а сейчас сойти с ума немного побольше. Погоди-ка, дай мне немножко подумать, хотя хули тут думать, не умереть одиноким. Попросил бы обои, зима теплая будет, мы тут дохнем от холода и мерзнем от скуки. Мои руки дрожат, кулаки не подниму, все мое тело пронзает от страха.
So yeah, when you actually start listening to the lyrics, it's not as just like, it's not as lighthearted as pop punk is a lot of time. I understand that pop punk also it can deal with some pretty serious issues as well, but a lot of times they tend to be on tracks that come across a bit more serious musically. And here it's just right on the surface. Oh, I forgot about the solar rejection. Yeah. So, if you're looking for a vibe that's kind of light and fun, but also kind of soul-crushing and a little bit of a downer at the same time. Like a shot of Jaeger, what's not a shot of Jaeger? What are they called? Jaeger bomb. A Red Bull and a shot of alcohol at the same time. An upper and a downer. Главное, чтобы было скучно by Sonya. It's a pretty good and fun time at that. Kind of like a Jaeger bomb. So, yeah. Again, главное, чтобы было скучно by Sonya. Yeah, no, it's definitely, and to be fair, I know there are a lot of artists making a lot of different music in a lot of different genres, but that's kind of the thing, right? Is that we don't get a lot of really good, nice ones. And so if you really like the punk sound, there are, a handful of albums that come out each year. Even if it's like 15, I would say that's a really good year, right? In any genre. 15 really solid ones. So to have a what's the term? Like a rotating catalog of artists that you can kind of come back around to. It's always nice to fill out your library, I suppose. But all right, we're getting into some of the heavy hitters here. Next up, we have Несоответствие is the EP by Kursha. Kursha released an absolutely just monster of an album last year. And here we get 3 tracks that are, this is from the group itself, dedicated to man's battle with various mental issues. It's 3 stories about those who are forced to meet their fears face to face. It's blackened, metallic hardcore, and Kursha does this very well. They released a hell of an album last year, and this 3-track EP clocks in at under 10 minutes, so it's very easy to just come back around to. There's a lot of blackened hardcore in Russia. I think it might have to do with the fact that black metal in general is really big here, bigger than I've noticed in other countries. I mean, again, I can't speak for everywhere, but I know in Scandinavia, black metal is huge as well. So, and a lot of the blackened metal comes out of St. Petersburg. You get the idea, right? It's not very long. I mean, realistically, I feel like I've already played 25% of it. But, I do think that it's the whole blackened thing. I know a lot of the metal community, the metal community is always very small, kind of in any place you live. But, right, with the Russian music community, I feel like being even much smaller than it is maybe in countries of similar size, that the metal community here is even more insular. So you have a lot of artists who bounce between groups. And it's not uncommon for people who are like in black metal projects to then transfer over to other projects. So it's kind of a logical jump. And I actually don't, it's one of those things I it would be worth investigating. But I feel like hardcore here definitely had a pretty solid base of support for many years, even like back in the 90s into 2000. I know when I first moved over here, like Hatebreed, anytime Hatebreed came over here, and I understand Hatebreed back in like the late 2000s, early 2010s, even to this day, but like was a massive thing. But like there weren't many other Western groups coming over here, but Hatebreed like would come over here all the time, and other hardcore groups. So I suppose there's probably that black and hardcore is just a natural merging of an insular metal community with pretty heavy roots in hardcore and black metal. So yeah. But anyway, so that's the Несоответствие, and the group is Kursha. All right, the final four here are all really good albums. And the first one, this is the last EP that we have here, is Gorkata. I think that's how you pronounce it. The artist is K.Berg. And this is, honestly, this is another instance where I can thank doing this streams to introducing me to a new type of subgenre. This time it is Thal. Thall is the name of the subgenre, which, as far as I can tell, is basically just djent music with more atmospheric and prog rock elements thrown into the mix, which doesn't really feel like it deserves to be its own thing. But if crust can be its own thing, then why not Thal? All that aside, these tracks are very heavy, but also melodic, and most importantly, and this is I've talked about this with other metal releases, where if the artist would just include the instrumental tracks as an additional, like alongside the normal album, that it would probably be a much easier sell to more people around the world. Like, not everybody likes metal singing or lyrics, but a lot of people would be down to listen to the music, and that is exactly what K.Berg did here. The 4 tracks are here with vocals, and then the 4 tracks are followed right afterwards, totally instrumental. And like, I listened to this thing 2 or 3 times all the way through, vocals, no vocals. And it's like, even if you don't have a problem with metal vocals, listening to the tracks without the vocals is actually interesting too, because your ear is going to pick up on other things going on in the mix that you might not pick up on while the vocal tracks are present. So it's almost like, obviously you recognize the songs as the same, but they still feel different, right? They feel like slightly, I mean, like, obviously it's just one track that has been removed from the mix, but it's such an interesting thing. And I really, really cannot stress enough, like, how great I think this is. And I really wish more metal artists would do this, because I think it would really help expand the metal community. And I know the metal community is doing pretty good right now with TikTok and all that stuff, but I think there are a lot of people who just get turned off by the screaming and the growling and all that stuff. And if they could just have the music, then they would be good with it. But I'm going to show you the tracks with the screaming and the growling. It's not too bad here, but... And this is basically like djent, but Thal, like I said, has that atmospheric edge to it, which you can hear right here. As far as I understand, all the instrumentals were recorded here in Russia, and then the vocals were done in Spain by this Via Senor. I might be wrong on that, but that's kind of what I understood from back to. But like, just want to jump to that same track without the vocals. Be nice if things loaded a little bit faster, but I think we can kind of remember what that sounded like. Right, like you take the vocal track out and you have this new thing. The backing synths are much more prominent in this mix. They're getting buried under the vocals otherwise. So I really love the fact that you have both versions here. I'm assuming that the instrumental version was recorded originally and then eventually K.Berg. Yeah, I had never heard of these guys before either, or Guy, and I don't think he has really any other. I think he has maybe one other release, like EP/LP, if I remember correctly. But I feel like he recorded all the instruments and then I got in touch with somebody online, was like, hey, let's put vocals on top of this, and they made it work. And it's a nice package. Also, I feel like gent music, and I know this is technically thal, but it's basically gent. I know gent music has kind of seen it's always been close to like mainstream, but I think the Doom soundtrack by Mick Gordon specifically for 2016 Doom really pushed that into the mainstream consciousness. So yeah, anyway, that is Go Kata, and the artist is K.Berg. Really good EP. It's got the vocals, it's got the instrumental tracks, and it's worth listening to. If you don't have a problem with metal vocals, it's worth listening to both of them. So this is really phenomenal EP. I will After the Burial, I have to think about that one a little bit. I'm not going to be able to have an answer for that right off the top of my head. That's one of the downsides of listening to, and honestly, 11 albums is a slow week. End of Story can vouch for that. A lot of times it's like 15 to 20, plus all the stuff that I listen to that I kind of just delete. So I have sometimes I get a little mixed up with some of the sounds. I'll have to go back and refresh my memory with After the Burial. I know I think I still have my old like iTunes music collection, and I know I've got I think at least 2 of their albums in there, but I'll have to Valentin, in the comments when this video after the live stream gets done and it just goes into the live sections of the channel, I will I'll go back, refresh my memory for After the Burial, and then try to think of something similar to that here in Russia. But yeah. All right. Anyway, moving along. The last 3 albums are just good. They're just like solid. These are really, really good albums. And I love how the metal community at the very start, the first week of the year, like when it was the winter holidays, and the metal community was just like, screw it, we're just going to release music anyway. And over the May holidays, basically the same thing. Everyone's off on vacation. No, the metal community is just like, all right, we're going to release music, whatever. We don't really care. It's 3 tracks, so you're like, oh, this is an EP, but like, okay, 13 minutes, 7 minutes, 20. This is 40 minutes long. So this is a goddamn album. Znania is the name of the album, and Rожь is the group. This is funeral doom metal, but with a very, very strong post-metal edge. I cannot stress that enough. It's slow. It's tuned low. The vocals are deep. But then there are these like wide open, clear sections that feel like something from the group Earth. Like the Bees Made Honey. What was their album? The Bees Made Honey in the Bull's Skull. Wait, what was that album? Earth, the Bees Made Honey in the Lion's Skull. Sorry. There are these sections that feel like Earth right there. It's, like I said, it's 3 tracks. It's 40 minutes, which, again, Friendly Thug, I'm looking at you. You had like 20 tracks and 42 minutes long. This feels actually shorter than 40 minutes because of the way the tracks like unfold. It's like, I don't know, watching a video in slow motion. Like, I don't know, of an implosion. An implosion's not the right word, but like, you know, one of those slow motion videos, or like where something is breaking or coming apart, and it's such a fascinating process to watch, and you know, kind of, or maybe like when it's in reverse, you know what it's going to end like, or maybe, but you're still just so fixated on that process, even though it's glacially slow. Yeah. And honestly, the final track here, Каждого ждет, is this huge cinematic thing. It truly feels like it's its own world here on the album. That honestly, while you're listening to this album, or to the final track, it's easy to forget that this is that sort of funeral doom style metal. But nice. All right, we got somebody in the chat who knows all about Rожь. Yeah, Rожь has been doing this for a while. This is not a new group by any measure. And I do have to shout out, obviously, yes, that I got an error here. Rожь, this album was released on the Мертвых Собак that album label, and they have actually been releasing a lot of really good Russian metal. It says Reflection Nebula, but I thought it was Мертвых Собак. But anyway, let's just get into Rожь here. It's slow, so I'm not going to be able to like really give you a good feel for this. Jump ahead a little bit. Also, I love the album artwork. It's phenomenal. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's hypnotic. It's lulling. Like, you don't get many releases like this. heavy, melodic, but then like that, it's still uplifting. And then, like again, this is halfway through the track. We're 7 minutes in, and then there's just like this space you've wandered into. You've wandered into a thicket, or not into a thicket. A thicket or a grove? Can't remember my forestry terms. There's so much room here. Like I said, it feels like Earth at times, without as much of the Western influence in it, though. And then it comes right back. So yeah, and I'll jump to the final track too. While I'm waiting for the song to load, Valentine, if you're planning on moving, you have like any specific plans? Because obviously, like just jumping ship to another country is not an easy thing to do. So, like kind of speaking from personal experience. Me jumping around does not do this justice, right? Like you're getting 10, 15, 20 seconds, and then I'm jumping 2 minutes ahead, right? How these tracks slowly unfold and build and I mentioned a glacier, but this may be not the right one. You know how sometimes in the summer when clouds are building in the sky, right? And at first, they don't seem very large, but then with time, they turn into these huge amorphous structures that are lighter than air, but at the same time, you realize way more than a building. That's what this music is. It's watching those thunderstorms slowly form and waiting for it to come crashing down on you. "13 minutes in, and it finally breaks open." So, this is an album that you really need to just sit down and listen to all the way through. But it is a very, really long but beautiful thing. And it's very heavy all the way through. So the album is Znania. The group is Rожь. And yeah, I honestly haven't run into an album like this in a while. Even a few years ago from the doom metal community, like in the States and in Europe, there were a few pretty good releases, but nothing quite like this. There's just a lot of space here, right? A lot of quiet sections where the guitars drop away for the most part, and it's just kind of this atmosphere. And it's great. But I still have to give my top pick of the for the rock and metal this week to the group Beresta and Свято Место or Святое Место. And yeah, this is atmospheric post-black metal, really leans into post-territory. There are the pained, howling vocals traditionally found in black metal, but they're buried pretty deep in the mix. And that keeps things fresh, prevents it from becoming too soul-crushing or a slog. Something which is honestly all too common with the genre. One of the things that I think is very important here too is that this album uses a lot of major chords. So it keeps things brighter and more uplifting. Not all the time, but it does usually frequently. It lifts things up. Gives a nice counterbalance to the darkness and intensity. And the clean singing. I have to mention the clean singing because there's a lot of cleans here. And probably actually more clean singing than the black metal howling. The clean reminds me a lot of Burton C. Bell from Fear Factory when he started doing those really like deep soaring vocals from the album Digimortal and onwards. It's just a really good debut LP, and this is also out of St. Petersburg. We've had a lot of music out of St. Petersburg this week, so they're just on it right now, I guess. Yeah, honestly, Valentine, while we're waiting for the music to load, if you have friends here, that is a huge, huge help. Temporary residency. Honestly, yeah, if you're coming from a unfriendly country, then you can easily get temporary residency here. They've basically made it that you just have to submit paperwork. As far as work, why is this? I'm going to get the... Okay, never mind. Focus on the music now. Major chords. Yeah, just the fact that they're using major chords is like, it's so nice. It's instead of it being that depressive atmosphere, there's almost something positive to it there. Obviously, I can't say for a fact that it's positive. I don't have the lyrics over here, but and to be completely honest, I had this one pegged as my top pick until I discovered Rojh yesterday evening. So at this point in time, I would say that those two albums are more of a tie. I've had a bit more time with this album, and it still sits very well. But, yeah. And I want to highlight the clean vocals as well. I think that's worth mentioning because, like I said, that they have a very uplifting style vibe to them. So it's black metal, but it's also kind of post, right? Like, there are vocals, but they tend to be buried very deep in the mix, and they're not there most of the time. And the tracks kind of go through these different metamorphoses over their course of their runtime, so they can be quite long. Right? So yeah, like I said, I'm gonna put this as the top pick of the week for me for rock and metal. Svято Miasto, and the group is Beresta out of St. Petersburg. Just jump in one last track here if we get lucky. We might not. Also, the fact that Show Me a Dinosaur is on here. Show Me a Dinosaur, kind of a big deal in the Russian metal community, especially things connected to like post and post-black. So. I think the reason that the ethnic themes that we're starting to see, Roj's album is really heavy into the Viking, Scandinavian mythology type thing. But I think the reason for that is because the Russian metal scene for a long time was, and obviously a lot of artists are still kind of doing like the international sound, but I think one of the things with metal is metal really loves the stories, right? And a lot of stories have been, a lot of those wells, whether it be historical narratives, whether it be horror, or even mythology, a lot of those wells have been tapped for a long time, and we know we've seen the same stories and the same things happen over and over again. And I think, yeah, with Russia, obviously, there are a lot of different folklores to draw from and things of that nature. And just like also sounds from within this country. And like, and I mean, like also too, it's right. Like, I think COVID, I don't want to say 100%, but I think COVID maybe had something to do with that, because when everybody was stuck here, and people started to travel around the country a little bit and get exposed to a little, even if they didn't really actually go anywhere, but they maybe just looked into it and they sort of saw what was out there and they started digging a little bit. And I mean, yeah, like that kind of digs up interest. I also think just though too, in general, the metal community here is growing a little bit. It does seem to be growing worldwide right now. And as that happens, groups are looking for ways to stand out from the crowd. They're looking for something to set themselves apart, and looking for interesting stories or interesting concepts to base your music upon is one way of doing that, right? So I think that's also a big part of it. So. Oh, nice. Северная Осетия. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, like when you go down south, there's a lot of different there's so much. And it doesn't even have to be within Russia, right? You can like look to Central Asia and stuff like that, and I can't think. I feel like there have been some songs and some albums, or maybe not albums, but like some tracks as well that have been dedicated to certain things connected to like historical events in Central Asia or Siberia. But like, yeah, there's just a lot to draw from, and it's kind of one of the fun things too. I feel like the metal community is usually pretty interested. They like to dig into the lore and everything like that. They're kind of nerds ultimately, right? So yeah, anyway, moving on, I'm going to go to the final album, the top pick of the week, and it's electronic music. Electronic music, and we got, not Anderdog, he's back. After putting out a joint album with Destin Bizarre in the first quarter of the year, which was honestly one of the best albums of the first quarter of the year, I am working on that video. It will be coming out soon. I just have to find and like kind of put the finishing touches on it and figure out how I want to highlight things without making it into like an hour long. It's probably still going to be quite long. Regardless, Anderdog is back. We've got 10 tracks here that I don't know. I don't know if it is maybe the return and the final chapter of the Wu-Tang Clan or what it is that inspired this, but it's dedicated to the old kung fu films of the mid 20th century. And it utilizes vocal samples and oriental sounds to create musically such a tale, like an old kung fu tale. The track titles kind of give you a clue: Tiger Style, Unbroken Spirit, Way of the Dog, World of Tomorrow, right? Living Stereo, Fury of the Pack, Awakening. You can kind of see there's a story being told here about a young student who then works with the master to learn the way of the dog, right? And yeah, it's an album that's just like off the wall IMDM goodness. It's not afraid to venture into jungle territory, breakbeat, early classic hip hop sounds, things bordering on the Detroit sound, more ethereal moments as well. It's just got so many things going on here, and all throughout it, there's this like these weird samples, not weird, just like these fun samples from old kung fu movies sprinkled in throughout. And yeah, it kind of paints this, I don't know, these pictures of the story in your head as you go. So the only question I have left for you, young grasshoppers, are you ready to begin the journey on the way of the dog? I certainly hope so.
I'm glad you've come. Now you are going to die.
I love the opening,
I'm
too.
afraid I came to make sure you died.
You know, I guess that you would be the only one who would dare to come here. You've got courage. Before you get a chance to fight with me, you must observe our rules and beat these two swordsmen first. My tiger kung fu is better than yours. I don't think you're good enough to avenge your master.
So even in the first track, you can hear all the mix of sounds in there, but the vocal sample is just phenomenal. It kind of like ties everything together and gives you an idea of where the story's going. This is another one of those albums that it's like a headphone release where it is really nice when you can just put on a nice set of headphones and just like tune out everything around you and just kind of get lost in the music, right? Like eyes closed, just doing your thing. Well, not doing anything, actually, is probably the better way to do it. So, I mean, it's IDM. You kind of know what it is, but like I mentioned, there's a lot of jungle and breakbeat in here that you don't maybe always hear in this genre. It'd be nice if I could. There's a bit of that oriental sound as well.
You are the new student. Come closer.
Cannot see.
You think I cannot see?
So this is the type of music,
Fear is the only
and
time.
Rojh also, that when I want to go to sleep, like on an airplane, for example, that I'll put in because it just kind of keeps morphing and evolving over time. You can just put it on and tune out and then go to sleep, and then it comes. Like, I know that's a weird way of selling this as an idea, but I love albums like that where in that really light sleep and you kind of pop in and out and it feels as though you've been there the whole time, or that like you're still active even when you're not. So yeah, there's a lot of like really fun and good sounds on here. Anderdog is, I think, we'll have to see if he puts anything else out this year. I mean, this is the second album this is his first solo album, but it's his second album, right? Because he had that other duo album earlier this year. So we'll have to see if anything else comes. But he's quickly becoming one of my favorite Russian producers. They're like electronic artists. Brusnika is up there, and Monocle last year really blew me away. Is this the one with... There's Jungle. And it kind of skitters off into breakbeat. Does it end with the hip hop? I don't know. Anyway,
For easy reference, the first side of each selection is labeled A.
so there's a lot here. There are a lot of different electronic sounds throughout this whole album. And none of them feel out of place. Like, they all just kind of flow from one into the next without their... with some electronic albums, you have a feeling that just like a bunch of separate tracks that just got put together on an album. This feels like a more natural process. Like, things just sort of grew into the next. Right, like there's transitions and everything like that. So anyway, I'm not going to spend much more time here. That is The Way of the Dog. The artist is Anderdog, and that is the top pick of the week. So there you have it. Only 11 this time around. And I think next week it's probably going to be something of the same. I currently have, I can tell you, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I currently have 16 LPs and albums in my playlist. But to be completely honest, I've already listened to a few of them, and I'm going to be done with them. And I know for sure tomorrow's the 9th of May. It's Victory Day. So I think the only person who is crazy enough to maybe release an album tomorrow is Husky. And there are rumors going around. I don't know if anyone knows or cares, but he released a music video not long ago, and he had like, and in the music video on the computer screen, he had this file. It said 0905, and so people are speculating, or no, it was 0509. Sorry. So people are speculating that it'll be the 5th of September, which I didn't even bother to check. The 5th of September is a Friday. So that's probably when it's going to come out. But who knows? Maybe he's going to do something wild. He's going to use the American month and then day, and he's going to surprise everybody. And tomorrow we'll have a new Husky album. But I doubt it. I would not put money on that. As it is, yeah, I'm assuming that next week will also be kind of a slow week. However, there are a few artists from April, some releases that had some discussion online that I just didn't get around to, and that I will try to get around to. But who knows? Maybe I won't. I don't know. I really hope too that next week the load times will be better. That did slow things down a bit. It is what it is. Yeah, but so that's music on Thursday. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I'll be doing this on Thursdays now, so I guess just kind of get ready for that. And let's see, what's left? Yeah, I'll be Sunday, 9 p.m. for the news, and then next Wednesday, 9 p.m. for the news. I'm doing news Sunday and Wednesdays now at 9 p.m. And next Thursday, I'll be back here with the music again. So until then, everyone have a good day, good evening, whatever time it happens to be. If you're watching this future, I hope you're having a good one. Until the next time I see you, take care of yourselves. And I'll see you when I see you, right? Пока-пока.